Springs, an accident. 75 north, 75 south. That's 24. One on both sides right now. Cummings Highway and Scenic Highway, an accident. Jenkins at Standard Gap, and Gun Barrel 2020 right in front of the Walmart, an accident as well. Keep you updated right here. Mike Wood in the Traffic Center. Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
It's 5:05 here at Hot News Talk Radio. I'm Russell. Here's what's happening. We're looking at the news now in Washington, where the White House was briefly put on a lockdown this afternoon. We're not sure why. And the White House was briefly put on lockdown this afternoon. The cause is still unknown. Secret Service agents were seen forcing news crews inside, keeping them in a briefing room. The lockdown was then lifted several minutes later. We don't know any more about it, but we'll keep you updated on that right here on Hot News Talk Radio. So the story is for some reason there was a lockdown over at the White House, and we're not sure why. So as soon as we find out, we'll let you know here on Hot News Talk Radio. It appears to not have been very serious because they haven't really put out any updates about it, but that's the update on the White House situation as of now. The Walker County Sheriff's Office has found a missing female. The Walker County Sheriff's Office is reporting that Lauren Mae Ramey has been located and is okay. Ms. Ramey was 26 or is 26, and she's 5'3", weighs about 130 pounds. She was last seen May the 6th, 2015, and they were previously asking if anyone knew about where she was, but now we know where she is. So the sheriff's office is reporting that she has been located and is okay. So this is no longer a missing persons report. And Grundy County deputies are now still looking for a man who's on the run from a detention center. And apparently they're still searching for a jail escapee. Kenneth Franklin, he's not been caught. Sheriff Clint Schrum says that he's gotten some good leads, but they haven't been able to pinpoint a location. There is some suspicion that he's in Georgia, but they have not been able to confirm that. So previously, the Grundy County inmate was on the run after escaping from a worship service. And police say that he asked to go to the restroom and then took off running. Grundy County Sheriff Clint Schrum says that once the inmate was left unattended, he believes that he escaped through a hole in a fence and then ran into the woods. It says, it just so happens that we got a lead that we feel like it's some good information, said Sheriff Schrum. And so we're trying to run this lead out. It's kept us real busy all day. The sheriff is looking for any tip that brings 43-year-old Kenneth Franklin back into jail. So they are trying to get any information that they have about him. If you have any information, please call the Grundy County Sheriff's Office at 931-692-3466. That's 931-692-3466 if you have any information about the escapee from the Grundy County Jail. In South Pittsburgh, the Housing Authority is under some fire now because an employee has been now being charged with theft of property. Leslie Jackson is being charged with one count of theft of property between $1,000 and $10,000. The alleged victim is a South Pittsburgh Housing Authority and her former employer. The initial report came from auditors contracted by SPHA. They notified the state comptroller's office, which conducted an in-depth investigation. They presented the case to grand jury on Monday. The investigation timeframe is from October 2012 to July 2013. It's alleging that she took funds from the SPHA. She turned herself in on Thursday night and at this time is now out of jail. Her final arraignment is scheduled for Friday, June the 12th, so several days from now. China is a little bit upset at the United States for allegations that the Chinese government is responsible for the hackings of a United States interest, United States government offices. And China is now blasting what they're calling irresponsible United States over data breach accusations. China is accusing the United States of making groundless accusations and being irresponsible today, on Friday, and blaming Chinese hackers for a vast data breach that could be the biggest cyber attack in U.S. history. 4 million federal workers may have had their personal information compromised in the attack, which officials said could affect every agency of the U.S. government. The officials and lawmakers identified the likely culprit as China, which has been suspected of involvement in previous government hacks. Senator Susan Collins, who's a Republican from Maine and a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, said that the hack was extremely sophisticated, and that points to a nation state as the responsible party, likely China. She says, we're still evaluating how serious the breach is. If it does involve the compromising of the personal records of 4 million Americans, I certainly think a strong response is warranted, she said. However, China's foreign ministry spokesperson Hong Lei told NBC that it was very hard to prove who was responsible for the cyber attacks. He said, without the thorough investigation, you jump to a conclusion so quickly. We think it is not scientific and is irresponsible. He stopped short of an outright denial, but said China was against cyber attacks, saying that we are very firm on this. He also said, we hope the United States side could discard this kind of suspicion and stop groundless accusations. We would like to see more trust and cooperation from the U.S., he added. The compromised data was stored in a system shared by the Interior Department and the Office of Personnel Management, which screens and hires federal workers and approves security clearances for 90% of the federal government. U.S. officials said that so far, the breach doesn't appear to be the worst-case scenario, compromise and disclosure of the identities of covert CIA agents. It doesn't appear that that has happened, although that has happened in the past. Senator Bob Corker says that the president's administration is withholding details about the future of Iran's nuclear program. Appearing on CNN's The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer on Wednesday, Senator Bob Corker came forward saying that the Obama administration is withholding details about the future of Iran's nuclear program. He says there is a document that explains what Iran is able to do per the agreement after the 10-year period, said Senator Corker. He said, I have asked the State Department for the document. They have not given it to me. I have asked the Energy Department for the document. They have not given it to me. I have asked the White House for the document, and they have not given it to me. The only thing I can imagine is that they think that it would shed a bad light on what they have agreed to. Most of us want to make sure that we are going to enter into an agreement, that it's an agreement that will keep Iran from developing a nuclear weapon over the long term. The president revealed in April in an NPR interview that in the years following the first decade of the agreement, Iran's breakout time for obtaining a nuclear weapon would drop to near zero. Senator Corker also questioned the State Department's lack of concern over a New York Times report that Iran's stockpile of low-enriched uranium has increased by 20% during the nuclear negotiations, saying there's no question that their stockpile has increased, but that's not debatable. But I hope there will not be any sanctions alleviated until they get down to that 300-kilogram stockpile, said Senator Corker. The problem is when the State Department spokesperson said that this is not an issue, this can be dealt with. He says, I would like to know how. They don't have a conversion facility to downblend or downgrade the 5% enriched uranium, so they're going to ship it out of the country. Those are issues that need to be dealt with and hopefully will be dealt with because they have to get down to 300 kilograms per the political agreement that was reached on April the 2nd. So it appears that Iran has not gotten to that enriched state yet, but there's not really any sign that they're working on that either. But we'll keep you updated on that here on Hot News Talk Radio at AM 1240. A man who is, at least according to reports, responsible for repeatedly stabbing somebody is now open for another investigation where the police are trying to find out more about this particular situation where a man reportedly repeatedly stabbed a Chattanooga girl at a Target store in Pennsylvania. Has now been ruled guilty, but is actually ruled insane as well. So a man who took a 16-year-old Chattanooga girl hostage and began stabbing her at a Target store in East Liberty, Pennsylvania, has been found guilty of several charges. A jury in Allegheny County ruled Leon Walls guilty of attempted homicide, aggravated assault, and recklessly endangering another person, but insane in the attack on the teen. So Walls, who's 44, will be sentenced later. The incident in which he grabbed Allison Meadows near the checkout lanes was caught on the store surveillance cameras. He continued stabbing her as customers took turns trying to subdue him. Police finally arrived and used a taser to get him in custody. The Meadows family had been visiting in Pennsylvania. Allison spent several months in the hospital as well. Walls had stabbed him out outside the Target before running inside. So we're not sure what his motivation was, although it has been found that he was actually insane. The 34th Riverbend Festival has gotten underway, or rather is going to be quite soon. The 34th edition of the Riverbend Festival is going to be getting underway on Friday along the riverfront. Dixie Fuller, who's worked booking acts and setting up stages for 31 of those years, said that it is a top-notch lineup of entertainment this year. Says he is especially high on rising star Sam Hunt, who will be on the Bud Light stage on Sunday at 8, saying we won't be able to afford him after this year, Mr. Fuller said. A major change is that there will be 2 acts on the main Coke stage each night instead of 1. The opening act begins at 6:30 p.m. There's no longer a Volkswagen stage on the Chattanooga Green across from the main stage. However, a new Chevrolet stage is just beyond the Old Jotty Bridge. Wine will be available nearby, as well as a liquor bar. The popular Lumberjack Show is returning nearby, and there will be a speed ride as well. This year's sand carving area by the Tennessee Valley Federal Credit Union booth will go up much higher than in the past as well. So the Riverbend Festival is going to be well underway, probably by the end of this broadcast. So I hope everyone at Riverbend is having a good time. And if you're going to be out there, you'll possibly maybe see me. I might be there. So we'll find out about that later. But this is Hot News Talk Radio either way, AM 1240, and we are everywhere. Listen live to Hot News Talk Radio at hotnewstalkradio.com. Download the TuneIn Radio app and search for Hot News Talk Radio. Hot News Talk Radio is on Twitter, where you report the world decides. That's AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. You can save half off now. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click on the half off link for great deals. Hot News Talk Radio is saving you money. That's AM 1240. At Hot News Talk Radio. You know, we got a lot of great programming here on Hot News Talk Radio. We have Imus in the Morning, where he's been in the radio business for a really long time. Laura Ingram is also on Hot News Talk Radio. She's a former attorney, and she's very hip and with it when it comes to the political sector, very neocon in her views. And we have my show, which is Digital Drive. We've been talking about Windows 10 quite a lot. Been very interested in Windows 10. As soon as it comes out, I'm going to be upgrading a laptop over to Windows 10 live on the air to give you an idea of what the conversion time is going to be, how long it takes to upgrade. So we'll be converting a laptop over to Windows 10 just to see how that goes. It should be pretty interesting. It should be a good show. I'm really excited about that. Can't wait. It's going to be about the end of July when we pull that off. So I know it's sort of poor form to tease for something that far in the future, but I'm just so excited about it. Can't wait to do it. My show's Digital Drive, though. We've been talking about the Patriot Act and the odd amount of surveillance that's going on in Chattanooga as of just recently that Mr. Toulis, David Toulis from Nuganomics.com has been talking about as well. His show, of course, is Nuganomics.com with David Toulis. It's on from 1 to 3 here on Hot News Talk Radio. He talks about local economy and free markets here on Hot News Talk Radio. He's really Nuga-centric, and that's the idea that we should be focusing on the local economy instead of the national economy, because the national economy is really just bound to collapse and is just it's inevitable at that point, really. So fortunately, we have the local economy to back us up. Sean Hannity is also on Hot News Talk Radio. He made the switch. What you're listening to right now is, well, Hot News Now. And we're going to be looking at the weather here, where it's a Friday and it's a little bit rainy in some areas. Not yet here. We were seeing some sprinklings in some parts of the area here and near the studio, but it is raining full on in some areas around town. It's about 82 degrees right now in the Chattanooga area. Still a little bit toasty when you walk outside. About 82 degrees right now in the Chattanooga area. Tomorrow, Saturday, we're expecting temperatures of about 89 for the high and 66 for the low. Sunday, 90 for the high and 68 for the low. Monday, 91 for the high and 69 for the low. For the rest of the week, next week, though, it looks like we're going to be seeing quite a lot of rain. On Tuesday, there's a 60% chance of precipitation. Same goes for Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. So quite a lot of rain for us next week. At least that's what we're expecting. So keep it tuned here for your weather updates and your traffic updates from Mike Wood in the Traffic Center here at Hot News Talk Radio. Just keep it tuned here, and we'll keep you updated right here on Hot News Talk Radio, because we have you covered. The Georgia Department of Labor is going to help hire 60 workers in Fort Oglethorpe. The Georgia Department of Labor, or GDOL, is going to be helping the automation personnel, a staffing company, fill a total of 60 positions for several companies with manufacturing plants in Northwest Georgia. 2 recruitments will be held on Thursdays, June the 11th and June the 18th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Fort Oglethorpe Municipal Complex. The company is recruiting tufting operators, creelers, general warehouse workers, sew-on operators, roll-up operators, fork and pole heister drivers, and extrusion operators. Since the company provides on-the-job training, previous work experience is not necessary. Due to U.S. Occupational Safety and Health Administration regulations, or OSHA regulations, applicants must be at least 18 years old, and they must have a valid form of identification and be able to work a 12-hour shift. Salaries range from $8 to $13 an hour. The company will conduct a background check and a drug screening test as well, and that's in Fort Oglethorpe. A fire on Plumwood Road is believed to be accidental. Firefighters responded to a house fire on Plumwood Road late Friday morning. They found light smoke, and they forced their way through the front door and found the fire in the living room. Firefighters put it out and contained it to the living room of that building, but there was smoke and heat damage to the rest of the house and its contents. There were no injuries, and damage is estimated to be at about $60,000. The homeowner told the firefighter that he had been gone for only about 30 minutes. He lives alone and does not have insurance. The Red Cross is helping him. Firefighters say that the fire appears to be accidental, but the exact cause still remains under investigation, unfortunately. But fortunately for him, the Red Cross is helping him out. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We are everywhere. Hot News Talk Radio is on Twitter as well. Go to Hot News Talk Radio on Twitter, where you report the world decides. Get the TuneIn app for your smartphone. Listen to us on the TuneIn app. This is Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, and HotNewsTalkRadio.com.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Are you calling me Yeller? Them's is fighting words.
Being called yellow, not a compliment. Yellow, the international symbol for caution. Yellow. You certainly wouldn't want to eat yellow snow. Yuck. We typically avoid yellow. So why would you put your hard-earned money into an outdated, expensive, slower yellow page? Or even trust their advice? Especially when your hard-earned advertising dollars could go much further, earning you greater profits, using the multifaceted resources and expertise of Chattanooga Web Services. You want real results for your advertising dollars. The local Chattanooga media experts, Chattanooga Web Services, will help your business grow, utilizing diversified media resources that's affordable to you, whether it involves the internet's World Wide Web, video, audio, or modern-day print. So don't get sucked into the yellow folks trying to upsell you into spending even more money as it ventures into a territory unfamiliar to them, the internet. Call Chattanooga Web Services, 424-3373. That's 424-3373. Or go to ChattanoogaWebServices.com, ChattanoogaWebServices.com.
Surgery does not have to be financially painful. Hi, I'm Surgical Dr. David Redd, and I'd like to invite you to my walk-in surgery clinic in North Shore. Quick Surge brings you immediate relief from moles, skin tags, maybe a laceration. Quick Surge. You walk in, fill out a mini form, I numb the area I'll treat, and before you know it, you're on your way home. Do I take insurance? No, because I take cash customers. I have super low and fixed prices, credit card, check, or cash. Uninsured? Member of the working financially disadvantaged? Choose Quick Surge. I publish prices online. No murk, just sunshine. Hassle-free, pain-free. Love the idea of a personal relationship with a doctor? Drop in with a nasty cut from work. Quick Surge. I'll take care of you. Quick Surge in the Public Center on the North Shore. No insurance hassles with Quick Surge. The national medical system is dysfunctional, overpriced, very alienating. I'm part of the solution, and so are you. Come on home. QuickSurge.com. QUIKSURG. Relief.
Hi, this is your computer speaking. I don't feel so well. It's like I've come down with a bug, and I'm getting slower.
Affordable Computers. We fix sick computers. Your hometown guys at Affordable Computers will repair your PC in half the time of the big boys at an affordable price. No tricks, no gimmicks, no computer speak technobabble. Just good, quick, and courteous affordable service and repairs. Want to affordably supercharge your PC? Affordable Computers on Highway 58. Affordable Computers hand builds all desktops in-house. If you're looking for a better-than-new refurb laptop, $150 will get you a Dell or another name brand at Affordable Computers. Affordable Computers, Highway 58, between Arby's and Taco Bell. Also Fort O, Battlefield Parkway near Holcombs. Affordable Computers, we service what we sell. Call 499-1975. That's 499-1975.
Wow, this is amazing. I'm feeling great. Supercharged.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
It's 524 here at Hot News Talk Radio. Here's Mike Wood with Hot News Talk Radio's Fast Traffic Now.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. Northbound 75, right at Ringgold Road this afternoon. Let's start there with an accident. Another one southbound on 75 at the 24 Russell. Brainerd Road, the 3500 block in front of the Auto Zone right now, an accident. We're working Central and East Brainerd right now. That is power lines down. 2020 Gun Bureau in front of the Walmart, an accident. One on Jenkins at Stanford Gap a little bit ago. Chattanooga police are still on the scene of that one this afternoon as well. EPB Fiber Optics, proud to be Gig City's only local provider of the fastest internet and sharpest HD TV. When you choose 2 or more services, you can save. 648-1372, EPBFI.com. The smart move EPB Fiber Optics. Mike Wood, the Traffic Center on News Talk Radio at AM 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
It's 5:25 here at Hot News Talk Radio. I'm Russell. Here's this happening. Looking at the national news now, where in Washington, the White House was briefly put on a lockdown. The White House was briefly put on a lockdown this afternoon. The cause is still unknown, and Secret Service agents were seen forcing news crews inside, keeping them in a briefing room, and the lockdown was lifted several minutes later. The story is still developing, although it does not appear to have changed as of the last 20 or so minutes. But we'll keep updated on that as well. It doesn't appear that anything new is going on with that. But again, as soon as it does, we'll let you know here on Hot News Talk Radio at AM 1240. A teen in Georgia, a college student in Georgia, his death has now been ruled a homicide, and he died in jail, actually. The death of a college student in Georgia has been ruled a homicide. A 22-year-old died from several blunt force injuries to the head and upper body, according to the county coroner. The student is found dead in restraints on New Year's Day. Matthew Jabede's cause of death was listed as blunt force trauma, which is really a combination of several things that were enumerated in the autopsy report by the GBI, said Chatham County Coroner Dr. Bill Wessinger. He said that he based his conclusion on the results of an autopsy by the GBI, which declined to make its report public. Wessinger cited abrasions, lacerations, skin injuries about the head and some other areas of the body. There were some small amounts of blood inside the skull case as well. However, the coroner stressed that homicide does not necessarily mean murder. It can be, but it's death at the hands of another person, the Savannah Morning News reported. His family learned of the cause of death from the death certificate, but not until a photo of it showed up on social media, according to their attorney, Mark O'Mara. It's really disgusting to me, O'Mara told news sources. They says that if they owe anybody the common decency of letting them know that their first son has died. The family was completely unaware that a death certificate had even been filed, he added. Last month, 9 deputies were fired in connection with his death, according to Chatham County Sheriff Al St. Lawrence. The terminations were based on the results of an internal investigation as well as one by the GBI. The Sheriff's Department spokesperson Gina Bilbo said that the deputies were let go for multiple reasons, including policy violations, not being forthcoming in the investigation, and standing by and not doing what they should have done. Those are the reasons that have been cited for their firing. Doctors have performed the world's first skull and scalp transplant in a 15-hour operation. United States doctors have successfully performed the world's first skull and scalp transplant. The recipient is a former cancer patient, also receiving a new kidney and pancreas during an operation that lasted for more than half a day. James Boyson is the first patient to receive simultaneous craniofacial tissue transplant together with a solid organ transplant, Houston Methodist Hospital said in a statement. The 55-year-old software developer from Austin, Texas, underwent 15 hours of surgery performed with the help of more than 50 medical professionals, the MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston said on Thursday. The lead surgeon on the team, Michael Klubak, said that the operation was very complex because the tissues had to be transplanted through microsurgery. So now it has been completed. The world's first skull and scalp transplant has been completed in a 15-hour operation. And of course, it's too soon to learn how the patient is faring, but when we find out, we'll let you know here on Hot News Talk Radio. Walker County Sheriff's Office has found a missing female. Lauren May Ramey was reportedly missing earlier, and now she's been located and is okay. She was reported as missing. She was last seen May the 6th in 2015 in her home in Ramey Road in Tryon. And she had a medical condition that may place her in danger if not obtaining proper medical care. But now the sheriff's office has found her and she is okay. Well, in Grundy County, the sheriff has a whole nother story where in Grundy County, they're still searching for a jail escapee. So a jail escapee, Kenneth Franklin, has still not been caught. Sheriff Clint Schrum says that he's gotten some good leads, but they haven't been able to pinpoint a location. But there is some suspicion that he's in Georgia, but they haven't been able to confirm that. A Grundy County inmate is still on the run after escaping from a worship service. So police say that he asked to go to the restroom and then took off running. Grundy County Sheriff Clint Schrum says once the inmate was left unattended, he believes that he escaped through a hole in the fence and ran into the woods. It just so happens that we got a lead that we feel like is some good information, said Sheriff Shrum. And so we're trying to run this lead out, and it's kept us real busy all day. The sheriff is looking for any tips that brings 43-year-old Kenneth Franklin back to jail. Franklin was one of 7 inmates at the jail's worship service on Wednesday night. He asked the worship leader to use the restroom. He left the building unattended, and police haven't seen him since. He's not had a history of violence, but what we do know is that he will run from law enforcement. Running from police is what landed him in Grundy County Jail to begin with, and then he did it again, and now he's on the run. So it's a little bit of an odd case, and we'll keep you updated on that as well here on Hot News Talk Radio. South Pittsburgh Housing Authority may have been stolen from by an employee, and a Housing Authority employee is now charged with theft of property. Leslie Jackson is charged with 1-count theft of property between $1,000 and $10,000. The alleged victim is a South Pittsburgh Housing Authority, her former employer. The initial report came from auditors contracted by the SPHA. They notified the state comptroller's office, which conducted an in-depth investigation. They presented the case to grand jury on Monday, and the investigation timeframe is from October 2012 to July 2013. It alleges that she took funds from the SPHA. Jackson turned herself in on Thursday night, and at this time is out of jail. Jackson's arraignment is scheduled for Friday, June the 12th as well. China is blasting the U.S. as being irresponsible, according to reports, following accusations that they're responsible for a hacking. Chinese hackers may or may not be responsible for vast data breaches that could be the biggest cyber attack in United States history. 4 million federal workers may have had their personal information compromised in the attack, which officials said could affect every agency of the U.S. government. And U.S. officials and lawmakers identified the likely culprit as China, which has been suspected of involvement in previous government hacks. Senator Susan Collins, who's a Republican from Maine, a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, said the hack was extremely sophisticated, and that points to a nation state as the responsible party, which is likely China, according to her. We're still evaluating how serious the breach is, but if it does involve the compromising of the personal records of 4 million Americans, I certainly think that a strong response is warranted, she said. However, China's foreign ministry spokesperson Hong Lei told NBC News that it was very hard to prove who was responsible for these cyber attacks. Without the thorough investigation, you jump to a conclusion so quickly. We think it is not scientific and is irresponsible. And he stopped short of outright denial, but said that China was against cyber attacks. And he says, we are very firm on this. We hope the United States the United States side could discard this kind of suspicion and stop groundless accusations. We would like to see more trust and cooperation from the United States, he added. The compromised data was stored in a system shared by the Interior Department and the Office of Personnel Management, which screens and hires federal workers and approves security clearances for 90% of the federal government. U.S. officials said that so far the breach doesn't appear to be the worst-case scenario. Compromise and disclosure of the identities of the covert CIA agents, which has actually happened before. Beginning Monday, approximately 4 million current and former government employees will be notified that their personal information, including names, social security numbers, and birth dates, might have been hacked. The OPM announced Thursday that all those potentially affected will be given help with credit reports and identity theft insurance, and posted guidance for anyone who suspects their data may have been compromised. The National Treasury Employees Union, which represents workers in 31 federal agencies, said that it is encouraging members to sign up for monitoring as soon as possible. This is Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. We're looking at the weather now, where it is reportedly about 83 degrees right now in the Chattanooga area, and we're seeing some rain in some areas in the Chattanooga area. We saw a little bit of sprinkling here at the Hot News Talk Radio studios, but it didn't last very long, although I'm getting reports of heavier rain around the area. It's about 83 degrees right now in the Chattanooga area, though. Expecting to see temperatures down into the 70s by around 9 p.m. tonight, so you can expect temperatures to get down to the 60s by the early morning hours tomorrow at about 6 a.m. Tomorrow, the high is 89 and the low is 66. Sunday, the high is 90 degrees and the low is 68. On Monday, 91 is the high and 69 is the low. And on Tuesday, 82 is the high and 68 is the low. And on Wednesday, 85 is the high and 67 is the low. And on Thursday, 86 is the high and 68 is the low. And Friday, 85 the high, 68 the low. It's looking anyway like next week is going to be basically nothing but rain from Tuesday on. So keep that in mind as you're planning your week next week and the weekend for this week. Of course, it's Riverbend, so that means it has to rain. Tonight is looking okay, although we might be seeing some rain here and there. And tomorrow, there's not any projected chance of precipitation that I'm seeing. Although, of course, you know how the weather is. That's subject to change. But right now, we're not seeing any rain so far. And it's about 89 degrees right now in the Chattanooga area. Or rather, I should say it's about 83 degrees right now in the Chattanooga area. So that's your weather update from us here at the Weather Center at Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. You know, we have a lot of great programming here on Hot News Talk Radio. And we just got a weather update, I should say. Just now came in that the temperature has shifted down to 74 degrees. So 74 degrees is the current temperature in the Chattanooga area, and there's a 20% chance of precipitation for us tonight. Still no chance of rain for tomorrow as far as we can see. So keep that in mind. And again, this is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We are everywhere. Listen live to Hot News Talk Radio at hotnewstalkradio.com. Download the TuneIn Radio app and search for Hot News Talk Radio. Hot News Talk Radio is on Twitter, where you report the world decides. That's AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You can save half off now. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click on the half off link for great deals. Hot News Talk Radio is saving you money. That's AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. And on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, you can check out the all-new Hot News Talk Radio website featuring our links to different useful sites. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com. That's hotnewstalkradio.com. We carry a lot of great programming here on Hot News Talk Radio, like Imus in the Morning. We have Laura Ingram as well, and we have Digital Drive, which is my show, where we talk about technology and quite a bit more as well. And we've been covering the surveillance different surveillance bills. The USA Freedom Act is something that we've been covering quite heavily because it's something that definitely affects us all. And how the USA Freedom Act really hasn't changed much of anything. So it's sort of a catch-22. You know, you have the USA Freedom Act, but if you don't have it, then you're somebody who's in favor of terrorism and all these different things. So it's a very very obnoxious situation that we have to deal with. But we've been trying to cover it as much as we can on Digital Drive, which is my show. And we're also talking about Windows 10 quite a lot because the launch is coming up in late January. And E3 as well, which I'm pretty excited about, the Electronic Entertainment Expo. Although probably not going to be covering that as much because that's more about video gaming than it is about, you know, the computer market. So less about that. But anyway, my show is Digital Drive from 12 to 1. We talk about technology and quite a bit more. Duganomics.com with David Toulis is on from 1 to 3 on Hot News Talk Radio. He talks about local economy and free markets, and he's very Nougat-centric over there on Nuganomics.com. It's also his website where he posts a bunch of essays about the surveillance state. He posts about police. He posts about local economy. He does write-ups about different local businesses. It's a very good website. You can get in contact with him as well through his website on hotnewstalkradio.com. Sean Hannity made the switch over to Hot News Talk Radio, and so should you. That's Hot News Talk Radio. Sean Hannity's on from 3 to 5. Where you're listening to Hot News Now. Right now, we're covering the local news, the national news, and the regional news right here on Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. So looking back at the news now, where we're seeing a situation at the White House again. We're trying to get more information about it, but it appears that there's a lockdown this afternoon, and we still don't know why. So for some reason, the White House was briefly put on a lockdown. The reason is still unknown. Secret Service agents were seen forcing news crews inside, keeping them in a briefing room, and the lockdown was lifted several minutes later. So we don't know what the reason was, but as soon as we find out, we'll let you know here on Hot News Talk Radio at AM 1240. A man who repeatedly stabbed a woman in Chattanooga at a Target store, or rather a Chattanooga woman at a Target store in Pennsylvania, is being ruled guilty, but is also ruled insane. So a man who took a 16-year-old Chattanooga girl hostage and began stabbing her at a Target store, according to reports in East Liberty, Pennsylvania, has been found guilty of several charges. A jury ruled him guilty of attempted homicide, aggravated assault, and recklessly endangering another person, but also ruled him to be insane in the attack on the teen. The incident in which he grabbed Allison Meadows near the checkout lanes was caught on the store's surveillance cameras. He continued stabbing her as customers took turns trying to subdue him. Police finally arrived and used a taser on him to get him into custody. The Meadows family has been visiting in Pennsylvania. Allison spent several days in the hospital, and Walls had stabbed a man outside the Target before running inside. So that situation is now over, of course, and he's been ruled guilty, but has also been ruled insane. Again, the weather here in the Chattanooga area for our Riverbend weather here is looking to be pretty good, actually. It's about 74 degrees right now in the Chattanooga area, and we are expecting some rain tonight, so keep that in mind. It's Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
We've got a table here at Delia's and Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's and Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank. Call now to get access to nearly 400 local businesses. Trade Bank. Call 877-2202. 877-2202. Trade Bank. You want to increase your cash flow, your competitive edge, attract new customers, and build a loyal customer base. You need Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call right now. 877-2202. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want with our wide variety of Trade Bank partners. For almost 30 years, Trade Bank has been your voice for small business, a member of the American Bankers Association, and in good standing with you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation. 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
If you have the DTs, the shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
542 here at Hot News Talk Radio. Here's Mike Wood with Hot News Talk Radio's Fast Traffic Now.
A lot of rain showing up on several TDOT cameras this afternoon. Russell, 3400 Brainerd at Rosemont Drive. Let's start there with an accident. Glenwood at Oak, we're working one there. Chattanooga police still on scene, 75 south at the 24. They're still there on 75 north and East Ridge, right between Ringo Road and I-24 right now. Brainerd in front of the AutoZone. Accident. Central Drive, right at East Brainerd there. Our power line's down. The EPB crew is on the scene of that one right now as well. Free tickets to local events, special giveaways, new TV channels, free previews of HBO, Showtime, and more. Follow EPB of Chattanooga on Facebook and Twitter. Mike Wood this afternoon right here in the traffic center at Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
It's 543 here at Hot News Talk Radio. I'm Russell. Here's what's happening. We are looking at the news now where, again, in Washington, it's appearing that there's been a lockdown of the White House this afternoon, but the cause is still unknown. Secret Service agents were seen forcing news crews inside. They kept them in a briefing room. The lockdown was lifted several minutes later. The story's still developing. We don't know what happened there. We don't know why. We don't know what caused that lockdown to take place, although we do know that there were members of the press there at that time. So we're not sure exactly what the cause of that situation is. But, of course, as soon as we find out, we'll let you know here on Hot News Talk Radio at AM 1240. And this is Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. We are everywhere. Listen live to Hot News Talk Radio at hotnewstalkradio.com. Get the TuneIn app and search for Hot News Talk Radio. And you can listen to us streaming live on your smartphone on the TuneIn app. That's Hot News Talk Radio and hotnewstalkradio.com. Temperature right now in the Chattanooga area is 74 degrees. and it looks like it's a little bit rainy in some areas around town. But right now at the Hot News Talk Radio studios, the temperatures are actually pretty nice. So we don't have any of that to worry about here in the Hickson area, but it looks like near North Shore, somewhere around Chattanooga, we're seeing some rain as well. The winds have been driving at higher elevations, have been driving the clouds around quite a lot. So keep that in mind. But it looks like the rain situation is not so bad in Hickson, but a little bit worse in other areas in North Chattanooga, North Hamilton County. Well, looking right now at the rest of the weather for the rest of the week, for next week, it looks like nothing but rain for next week, unfortunately. I hate to break it to you. The rest of next week, pretty much all next week, is going to be rainy, rainy, rainy. So be careful when you're driving. We definitely don't want you to be having any problems on the road. That's always an issue. So we definitely don't want you to have any problems when you're driving out on the roads. So keep that in mind and be careful when you're driving. We definitely don't want you to be hydroplaning or anything like that. So keep that in mind. And that's your weather update from us here at the Weather Center at Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. The 34th Riverbend Festival is now underway. The 34th edition of the Riverbend Festival has gone underway today along Chattanooga's riverfront. Dixie Fuller, who has worked booking acts and setting up stages for 31 years, said that it is a top-notch lineup of entertainment this year. He's especially high on the rising Nashville star Sam Hunt, who will be at the Bud Light stage on Sunday at 8, saying that we won't be able to afford him after this year. Mr. Fuller said, a major change is that there will be 2 acts on the main Coke stage each night instead of 1, and the opening act begins at 6:30 p.m. There's no longer a Volkswagen stage on the Chattanooga Green across from the main stage, however. A new Chevrolet stage is just beyond the old Jotty Bridge. Wine will be available nearby as well as a liquor bar. The popular Lumberjack show is returning nearby, and there will be a speed ride. This year's sand carving area by the Tennessee Valley Federal Credit Union booth will go up much higher than in the past. Chip Baker, the executive director, said the work on the hard edge was supposed to be finished by the start of the festival, but it's not quite complete and will resume when the event is over. But he said only a small section of the festival site will be roped off near the river. Rivermen officials said tickets to the talent who will appear on the Coke stage would add up to $625 if you were able to catch all the shows at other venues. Today until midnight is the last day for buying Riverbend armbands that sold for $39 each. So you can no longer buy those as of actually a few hours ago, unfortunately. The Georgia Labor Department is looking to hire about 60 workers in Fort Oglethorpe. The Georgia Department of Labor will help automation personnel, which is a staffing company, fill a total of 60 positions for its several companies with a manufacturing plant in Northwest Georgia. 2 recruitments will be held on Thursdays, June 11th and June 18th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Fort Oglethorpe Municipal Complex at 500 City Hall Drive. The company is recruiting tufting operators, creelers, general warehouse workers, sew-on operators, roll-up operators, fork and pole heister drivers, and extrusion operators. Since the company provides on-the-job training, previous work experience is not necessary. Due to U.S. Occupational Safety and Health Administration regulations, or OSHA regulations, applicants must be at least 18 years old. They must also have a valid form of identification and be able to work 12-hour shifts. Salaries range from $8 to $13 an hour. The company will conduct a background check and a drug screening test as well. There's a fire on Plumwood Road that's believed to be accidental now. Firefighters responded to a house fire on Plumwood Road late Friday evening. They found light smoke. They forced their way through the front door and found the fire in the front living room. Firefighters quickly put it out and contained it to the living room, but there was smoke and heat damage to the rest of the house and its contents. There were no injuries, and damage is estimated to be about $60,000. The homeowner told firefighters that he had been gone about 30 minutes. He lives alone and had no insurance. The Red Cross is helping him. Firefighters say the fire appears to be accidental, but the exact cause remains under investigation so far. And a former BP executive now has been found not guilty. According to reports, he's been found not guilty of lying in oil spill probe. A federal jury found former BP executive David Rainey not guilty of lying to investigators in connection with the 2010 Deepwater Horizon oil rig disaster that spilled oil into the Gulf of Mexico. Rainey is one of the people facing criminal charges in connection with the spill. He was charged with making false statements about the quantity of oil spilling into the Gulf following the explosion aboard the BP rig. Defense lawyers argued his figures were honest estimates and that Rainey had no reason to lie. The government's initial estimate for the spill was 5,000 barrels a day. federal judge overseeing the civil litigation in the case ruled earlier this year that the actual rate was over 36,000 barrels a day, amounting to approximately 3.19 million barrels before the damaged oil well was capped. U.S. District Judge Kurt Engelhardt agreed with the verdict. He had previously dismissed charges against Rainey of obstructing a congressional investigation, partly because members of Congress could not be compelled to testify. A trial is still pending for BP well site leaders Robert Kaluza and Donald Vidrine, who've been charged with manslaughter over the 11 deaths caused by the explosion aboard the Deepwater Horizon. Anthony Badalamenti, a former manager for Halliburton Energy Services as a BP contractor on the rig, was sentenced to 1 year of probation for destroying evidence in the aftermath of the disaster. BP's former engineer Kurt Mix was convicted in 2013 of deleting text messages about the oil flow, but his conviction was overturned because the jury deliberations were tainted by outside information. So it does not appear that many people are being held accountable for the oil spill, I should say. Lost my words, for the oil spill over there in the Gulf of Mexico. Doctors performed the world's first skull and scalp transplant in a 15-hour operation. U.S. doctors have successfully performed the world's first skull and scalp transplant. The recipient is a former cancer patient and also received a new kidney and pancreas during an operation that lasted more than half a day. James Boyson is the first patient to receive the simultaneous craniofacial tissue transplant together with solid organ transplants, Houston Methodist Hospital said in a statement. The 55-year-old software developer from Austin, Texas, underwent 15 hours of surgery performed with the help of more than 50 medical professionals. The Medical Dr. Anderson Cancer Center in Houston said on Thursday. And lead surgeon on the team, Michael Klubeck, said that the operation was very complex because tissues had to be transplanted through microsurgery. So that surgery is a success, and the fate of the patient looks to be good. Of course, we can't tell you 100% because it has only just now ended. Surgery has only just ended as of last night sometime. Grundy County deputies are still searching for an escapee who apparently escaped from jail after asking to use the restroom during a worship service. Sheriff Clint Schrum says that he's gotten some good leads, but they haven't been able to pinpoint a location. There is some suspicion that he's in Georgia, but they haven't been able to confirm that. A Grundy County inmate is on the run after escaping from a worship service. Police say that he asked to go to the bathroom and then took off running. Grundy County Sheriff Clint Schrum says once the inmate was left unattended, he believes that he escaped through a hole in the fence and then ran into the woods. It just so happens that we got a lead that we feel is some good information, said Sheriff Schrum, and so we're trying to run this lead out. It's kept us really busy all day. The sheriff is looking for any tip that brings 43-year-old Kenneth Franklin back to jail. And if you want to give that tip, you can call the Grundy County Sheriff's Office at 931-692-3466. That's 931-692-3466. The sheriff says Franklin recently had heart surgery and does not have his medications with him. If anyone has any information, to call 911 or the Grundy County Sheriff's Office at that number. So it's appearing that he might not be dangerous, although they've not come out with any statements regarding that yet. South Pittsburgh Housing Authority employee has been charged with theft of property. Leslie Jackson is being charged with theft of one count of theft of property between $1,000 and $10,000. The alleged victim is a South Pittsburgh Housing Authority, is the South Pittsburgh Housing Authority, her former employer. The initial report came from auditors contracted by SPHA. They notified State Comptroller's Office, which conducted an in-depth investigation. They presented the case to a grand jury on Monday, and the investigation time frame is from October 2012 to July 2013. It alleges that she took funds from the SPHA. Jackson turned herself in on Thursday night and at this time is out of jail. Jackson's arraignment is scheduled for Friday, June the 12th of this year. China is blasting the United States for irresponsible allegations, according to sources. So China is alleging that the United States accusations accusing them of hacking are irresponsible. U.S. officials and lawmakers identified the likely culprit of the hacking as China, and which has been suspected of involvement in previous government hacks as well. Senator Susan Collins, who's a Republican from Maine and member of the Senate Intelligence Committee, said that the hack was extremely sophisticated and that points to a nation state as the responsible party, likely China. She says, we're still evaluating how serious the breach is, but if it does involve the compromising of the personal records of 4 million Americans, I certainly think that a strong response is warranted. However, China's foreign ministry spokesperson Hong Li said that it is very hard to prove who was responsible for the cyber attacks. He says, without the thorough investigation, you jump to a conclusion so quickly. We think it is not so scientific and is irresponsible. He stopped short of an outright denial, but said China was against cyber attacks, saying that we are very firm on this, he says. And he says, we hope the United States side could discard this kind of suspicion and stop groundless accusations. We would like to see more trust and cooperation from the U.S., he added. The compromised data was stored in a system shared by the Interior Department and the Office of Personnel Management, which screens and hires federal workers and approves security clearances for 90% of the federal government. U.S. officials said that so far, the breach doesn't appear to be the worst-case scenario, which would be compromising the disclosure, or rather compromising and disclosing the identities of covert CIA agents. So it doesn't appear that that has happened yet. A man who repeatedly stabbed a Chattanooga girl at a Target store in Pennsylvania has been ruled guilty, but also insane. A man who took a 16-year-old Chattanooga girl hostage and began stabbing her at a Target store in East Liberty, Pennsylvania, has been found guilty of several charges. A jury in Allegheny County ruled Leon Walls to be guilty of attempted homicide, aggravated assault, and recklessly endangering another person, but insane in the attack on the teen. Walls, who's 44, will be sentenced later. The incident in which he grabbed Allison Meadows near the checkout lanes was caught on the store's surveillance cameras. He continued stabbing her as customers took turns trying to subdue him. Police finally arrived and used a taser to get him into custody. And the Meadows family has been visiting in Pennsylvania. Allison spent several days in the hospital, and Walls had stabbed a man outside the Target before running inside, according to reports. This is Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. You know, we have a lot of great programming here on Hot News Talk Radio. We have Don Imus in the morning here on Hot News Talk Radio. After that is Laura Ingram as well. And on Tuesdays, we have Laura Ingram as well during that time slot, and Digital Drive is my show. We talk about technology and actually quite a bit more on Hot News Talk Radio. And on Digital Drive, we've been talking about the release of Windows 10, which I'm very excited about. The release of Windows 10 is something that everyone is anticipating. It has a lot of new features compared to what was on Windows 7, so very excited about that, and even Windows 8 comparatively. So on the show, we're going to be installing Windows 10 on a laptop. We're going to see how that goes. We're going to be installing Windows 10 live on a laptop sometime when Windows 10 comes out, so about July. Late July is when Windows 10 comes out. So we'll be updating that to see how that goes, see how smooth the process is here on Hot News Talk Radio at AM 1240. It's 74 degrees right now in the Chattanooga area, and it looks like it's pretty good weather actually for Riverbend, although it might be a little bit rainy, but hey, that's never stopped anybody, has it? So 74 degrees right now in the Chattanooga area and a little bit rainy as well. Our weekend is looking a little bit rainy, but also pretty warm, with 89 degrees for the high on Saturday and 90 for the high on Sunday. Monday, 91, and Tuesday, 82, and it looks like the rest of next week is going to be rainy. That's what our forecast is showing. Quite a lot of rain for us here in the Chattanooga area for next week. So keep that in mind as you're planning out your weekend and planning out the rest of next week. Be careful when you're driving, because we definitely don't want you to get in any trouble when you're driving. This is Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240, and we are everywhere. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com to listen to us live.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider